Hello, howdy, and welcome to Twangmeister Studios. I'm Dan Wesley, and this short series of videos is brought to you by Mixed by the Twangmeister. If you would like to have your songs professionally mixed, then why not have them mixed by the Twangmeister? If you're watching this on YouTube, have a look underneath the video. I'm sure all the details will be there. If you're already on the website, then hello! You'll be able to find all the details of what we have to offer and plenty of examples of songs that I've mixed here in various genres over the years. So why are we here today? Well, today I'm going to be mixing a song, actually mixing a song again, remixing a song that I mixed a few years ago for the purposes of this video. It's a song by a guy called David Broadley. Now, David is originally from New Zealand. He moved to the UK a few years back and had a very successful career entertaining the crowds over here. And while he was here, David recorded 2 albums here at Twangmeister. The first was an album of country covers, mostly country songs, a couple of pop songs which we countrified. And then the second album was an album of all original material from various songwriters. And the song that we're going to be mixing today was actually written by a guy right here in Grimsby. Not only right here in Grimsby, but he actually lives in the next street. If I wanted to see him, I could literally go out my front door, up my neighbour's driveway, climb over their back fence, through that neighbour's garden, up their driveway, and I'd be at his house. It's fair to say that isn't the route I would usually take. But David and Steve got together on this second album, and it just so happened that David liked 4 of Steve's songs, so there are 4 Steve Blythin songs on this particular album. Steve is a bit of a guitar whiz. I've had him in here many times over the years, showing off his guitar wizardry. But the song in question is one of Steve's songs. It's called Somebody Stop Me. It's an up-tempo, classic sounding but also modern sounding country song, a very American sounding song, but written by a guy right here in Grimsby. So if you fancy watching me every step of the way mix this song, then you've come to the right place. Shall we get on with it? Okay, so let's see what we have here. Now, in terms of the track count, it's nice and small. Fewer than 20 audio tracks altogether. It's quite common for me to mix songs of 50, 60, 70 tracks or more, but this one is nice, should be nice and easy. Let me show you exactly what we have here. We have, in terms of the instruments, 1 bass guitar, 1 acoustic guitar, 1 dobro, 1 electric guitar, as you can see 2 microphones, but it's the same part. Same with the piano, 2 microphones, but 1 piano part there, 1 fiddle, a lead vocal from David, and a couple of harmonies from some guy called Dan, whoever he is. And the drums are quite simple as well, just 8 tracks, just the 1 kick mic, 1 snare, no snare bottom, 3 toms, a hi-hat, and a couple of overheads. No rooms. It's quite common for there not to be room tracks. If I'm recording a band who quite often might like to record all together in the same room, there's no point having a room tracks, any room microphones, because it would pick up loads of stuff that you couldn't really do much with. So nice and simple, or so it should be. Let's show you first of all how we've set up the session. I have imported all the tracks once they've been recorded and comped into my mix template. Now, I have a number of mix templates depending on the genre, and they evolve over time. Tweaks happen here and there. And for this particular style of music, I do have a country music template which I've built up over the years. And as you can see, it involves a whole bunch of buses here. If you look in Sonar, we have 2 sections. We have our tracks over here and our buses over here. If you see black fader caps, those are the tracks. If you see blue fader caps, those are our buses, neatly in their own section, and we can sort of tell that to disappear if we don't need to see it. So, for example, the drums. We have an assortment of tracks, not just the 8 audio tracks, 8 microphones. We have various bits of routing going on there with compression parallel tracks and maybe all kinds of different things. I couldn't tell you how many tracks we've got there altogether. 20. There's probably 19 tracks set up already just for drums, but they all make their way to the drum bus, which is this one here. A similar story for the other instruments, but we'll get on to that in a little while. So why don't we, without further ado, have a listen to what this thing sounds like. And this is with no processing whatsoever. We have nothing going on. It's literally the raw tracks, no effects, nothing. I've just done a basic balance on the faders, maybe panned a couple of things here and there. So, with nothing added, what do these tracks sound like? Well, let's have a listen. 1, 2, 3.
Sitting there, I liked the way she looked, like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. Now 6 months down the line, she's messing with my mind and causing me to have my doubts. Somebody stop me, oh, what have I done? I couldn't see the wood for the tree. I don't want no sympathy, it's all my fault, but somebody stop me, please.
Okay, so there you have it. That's what it all sounds like with nothing added. And so it's my job to make all of this sound awesome. So, carrying on having a look at how we've got things set up. Now, in the template that I have set up here, you will notice each of the audio tracks has one of these. It's an NLS. It's a Waves NLS console emulation. So I've set up console emulation on all of the audio tracks with the Waves NLS. Now, what is console emulation? In case you don't know it, they've modelled the circuitry of classic large format mixing consoles and taken all the audio goodness out of them and distilled it into ones and zeros. So that we can mix through it here. Now, Sonar does have its own built-in console emulation, which I could have used instead. Let me show you. If I open up the Pro channel on any track, you will see that at the bottom here we have a console emulation, and it comes in its the 3 standard flavors. You'll see S-type, N-type, and A-type. Of course, they're not allowed to tell you what those things mean, but we know what they mean. SSL, Neve, and API consoles modelled for this. And the built-in Sonar console emulation is very nice, does the job. But why am I using the NLS? Well, let me show you. Let me first of all turn our processing on. And I'm going to open up a few of these. Let's open up some of the ones for the drum. So let's open up the one for the kick drum. There's one there on the snare, and a couple of these for the toms. So let's have a look at them all. Whoops, we don't need full screen, thank you very much. Drag that down there. So there you are. Well, I've just opened 4 of them at random. It wasn't random at all, was it? These are all on various drums. Now, this is the reason why I'm using the NLS instead of Sonar's built-in console emulation. We have one of these on every track, and once again you can choose your 3 flavors of console. In the case of the NLS, as you can see, they are named differently: Spike, Mike, and Nevo. Now then, and on this particular occasion, they are named after the person who owns the console that was modelled. So Spike, that is an SSL. Mike is an old EMI desk from Abbey Road, I believe. And Niveau is a guy called Yuad Niveau, who, quite handedly, has a Neve console. Almost the same as Niveau, so that's quite easy to know what that means. So as you can see, I've chosen the Neve console for these various drum parts. Now then, why am I showing you this? Because if we go over to our master over here, where you can see lots of stuff is already set up, let's open up the NLS, which is the bus version of that plugin, which is where all these things, not where they all go to, but where they are remotely controlled from. So let me show you what happens here. So like I say, I've chosen Neve for all these. Now I could choose the Neve console for all my tracks. It might be that I want some to sound a little bit different and have a different flavour. And what happens here is I've sent all the NLSs that are on the drums to this first fader here on the bus version, and similarly the different tracks to the different ones. There are 8 faders altogether, and I've sent them all to various ones which I have named, as you can see. So if you look here at the drums, you'll see here I have chosen the Neve. Now then, what I can do is I can say, well, actually I want all my drums to go through Spike, which is the SSL, and with one click they all change. As you can see, they have all now changed to that. I'm going to change them back to my Neve again, just like that. So in one foul swoop I can make that change. So this is one of the reasons that I've chosen the NLS over the built-in Sonar console emulation. Right, let me just turn off all the master bus processing. So all these are now on and active, all these NLSs. So we're going to hear now, let's have a listen to what the drums sound like on their own. So I'm going to solo the drum bus and have a listen to what the drums sound like. Now then, what you can probably hear there is we have a problem down in the lower register. There's a kind of boominess. Every time the kick hits, we're hearing not just the kick, we're also hearing a boom, boom, boom. Have a listen. Okay, now it's not difficult to know who the culprits are here, and namely the toms. If you listen to, let's just solo the toms by themselves. Okay, and they sound like this. So lots of spill from the other microphones, and what you're hearing there is one of the toms, at least one of the toms, is reacting to every time the kick drum is being hit, and it's vibrating, and it's producing that horrible boom, which is muddying up the whole drum kit. So we've got to get rid of that, as well as other things. And there's a couple of ways of doing that with the toms. I could use a gate to clean things up so that only the toms hits are getting through. But with toms, I prefer to do some editing. Because they only happen here and there throughout the track, it is quite a simple process. So let me show you what I'm going to do. Let's go to the first tom and solo that by itself, and you'll see the first tom hit is this one here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to split that at that point and have a listen. So you'll hear that the tom actually decays over this period of time, but we're not going to keep the whole of that. I'm just going to keep up to there, because as you can hear, the snare is spilling into that microphone quite seriously. So if I now mute what comes before and after, you'll hear we now have... Okay. Now then, you might think, now hang on a minute, that tom decay is too short. That's going to be obvious. Well, it's more important for us to get rid of all that spill. We can use reverb to bring back some length to those toms later on. So what I we'll do is I will go through the whole of this tom track and find where they hit. And for example, the next hit is here. So there's 2 hits. We're going to just chop in there, and then we're going to let this one decay to there once again with a fade, and mute what comes before. And while we're at it, let's have a look at this middle one, tom 2. Now you can hear that this is the culprit for that boom, boom, boom going on all the time. It's a big, loud, much louder, boomier sounding tom. So let us chop that. And I'm going to let it indicate to there. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the whole of the toms and edit them all like this. You don't need to watch me do all that. Let's fast forward. Okay, so here we are back in the room. Let's listen to what our toms sound like now. Let's go to a place where they're all hitting. And we have muted the bits in between all the different hits. And so the toms by themselves now sound like this. Silence. Okay, and then again here we have... Now you can hear that second one is really loud and boomy, but we're going to deal with that later. Basically what we have done now is we have cleaned up the sound of our drums. So now, let me just unmute these bits that we've muted and have a listen to how the drums did sound. And now, see, we've taken all that horrible boominess away. That was some little bit of cleaning up we needed to do before we got into our mixing. So, right, I think that's all we need in this first video. So join me in the next one when we shall start doing some proper mixing. We'll get on with the kick and snare, certainly at least in the next video. So, see you again in part 2.